um, on this day in history. 1776, the Continental Congress resolved with the Declaration of Independence that the American colonies, quote, are and of right ought to be free and independent states, end quote. And so on this date, we became an independent nation. And although Congress didn't declare until later that the official holiday would be July 4th, the actual declaration was presented on July 2nd. In 1881, Charles J. Guiteau fatally wounded President James A. Garfield in Washington, D.C. In 1937, American aviation pioneer Amelia Earhart disappeared over the Central Pacific while attempting to fly around the world. In 1961, novelist Ernest Hemingway unfortunately committed suicide at his home in Ketchum, Idaho. And in 1964, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law. At this point, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Caleb and let him introduce our speaker, Isaac Weliever. I'm going to, once he's done with the introduction, I'm going to mute everybody's microphone. Isaac, you'll need to unmute yours when you begin to speak, okay? Caleb, take it away.
It's a pretty big day in history. That's a lot of stuff going on there, man. Well, Isaac and I kind of grew up together. He was a couple years behind me in high school. Dated my sister for a little bit. We've gone to church together for a long time. I put butter in my burgers because of Isaac. You know, he's been a real good friend. We've worked together at Chase. Isaac's been a chef for quite a while, professionally trained. He had a really cool restaurant in Chicago for several years. He's done some hotel work and also culinary stuff down in Costa Rica on a couple different occasions. I tried to get Isaac last year, actually, so I'm glad we can wrangle him down this time. They've also been over at Francis and Mount really helpful during the last 3 months with feeding first responders and giving out meals with Project Feed the Fam. I'm sure Isaac will talk a little bit about that. I know within the first month of that, they had already provided over 300 meals. So they've been very instrumental in the giving for, for the community here. So I'm very excited to have Isaac kind of tell us about, what's going on there at Francis and Mount. I'm seeing some of the outside seating and some new things going on. So I'll let you take it from here, Isaac.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Caleb, and hello, Kiwanis. Thanks everybody for allowing me.
Isaac, you need to unmute. I've muted all the microphones, and there you go. There you go.
Copy that. Okay, back on here. Alrighty. I was just saying, basically, thank you and hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to kind of sharing our experience during COVID-19. And a lot of that is going to reinforce a value that I've had this entire time, which is that I'm not going to discuss and or worry about the validity of the virus. If it's any type of design, if there's any type of control happening. I feel that that's a really big distractor issue, especially for the restaurant industry, because our guidelines are constantly changing and our business is challenging enough. So just as we don't question whether we use quad sanitizer at 200 parts per million, we're not going to question the guidelines within COVID-19. I myself am a prepper. And that means that, I'm ready for all sorts of different scenarios for both. So with a mentality of we're going to survive, with physical preparedness, and then with training and planning. So when this started to happen back in, really becoming prevalent in January and then into February, pandemic in the prepper community is a very likely one. A very likely disaster that can affect us all. And And more than that is Indiana doesn't stop having tornadoes. We don't stop having natural disasters. So when you have these things coming together, you can really create a perfect storm. And what I really wanted to focus on was keeping it within our wheelhouse and making sure that we can take care of people, that handling those disasters, that's in their wheelhouse. And then what can we do to make that a little bit better? So at the end of February, I already set on 2,500 meals at any given moment, so that if needed, Francis and Mount could respond and take care of the community, as long as we could take care of them and the ones that needed it. And that's really important to me as a value, to know that we can respond and that we can do our part, that we can feed the people doing their job that they've practiced, that they've been trained for. And so that's really, I briefed everybody, hey, I think this is going to get bad. I actually thought it could get a lot worse than what it did. So thanks to God that it didn't. And I said, this is what we're going to do. We saw the closure of a lot of places. We lost the TEDx catering job that was going to be at the beginning of March for Wabash College. And that's kind of when I was like, yep, this is a real thing. This is going to really affect us, and we can't pretend. So the first thought that went through my head was a very selfish one. And when that happens, I've tried to really train myself to get out of how does this affect Isaac Weliever and everything? It's like, no, we don't want to go down that path. So my first thought was, man, this time actually in June of last year, Francis and Mount only almost closed because I had really gotten it wrong. What the city of Crawfordsville needed, wanted, could support, likes, dislikes, atmosphere, attitude, all those things I almost got completely wrong. If I was any more wrong on the circle, I would have been right. So now we've turned that corner, and thank God that I've got a good enough team of not just employees but advisors to kind of help point me in that direction. So I'm thinking, oh man, we just had to rebuild from the ashes. I can't believe this is happening to me. And then pretty good for me, I was able to spin that around in 15 minutes and be like, Isaac, you just rebuilt from the ashes. You can do this. You can reconcept yet again and adapt to what's needed. We have a staff that's willing to roll with the punches. I'm willing to try things, whether they work or not. And so we stand a real chance of being able to survive this. And I was just open and honest with my staff, and I'm like, guys, this is potentially dangerous, what we're going to do. And if you don't need to be working, don't be working, no hard feelings. And when we get to whatever the next stage is, talk and you can come back. For the most part, not only did our staff stay, we actually did a significant amount of hiring during this time. So we grew our staff from 8 full-time members to 15 full-time members, and that was without the dining room being open. And I think that that's due to a lot of different things. So I had to set up some goals and some values. So for me personally, as the leader of my team, safety in regards to food safety, customer safety, and staff safety always is my number one concern. And then the last part of that safety is financial safety, right? And so the way that I really do financial safety is by my second priority, which is revenue creation. And that to me has to always be, budgets are great, but problems do happen and we have to plan for those problems. And the answer is never make less money. Or if it is that, that hasn't worked for me so far as an answer. So, so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, who do I know that is a good member of Crawfordsville that's going to be willing to help? And I started to compile this list. And at the top of the list was my neighbor Crossroads. Stacy does a lot of great things. And so I talked to Stacy. I'm like, look, let's work together to get people fed. We can donate some, you can donate some. And then, we can use my emergency stores. We can use the food that I have on hand. At this time, we didn't know if supply chains were going to break down. So that's a really that's a scary thing, right? So that's what I focused on, and why we did that event that was to feed the truckers. So knowing that supply chain can break down, knowing that supply chain is fragile, meant we might have a finite amount of supplies. So how do we handle that? So I talked to Stacy and I talked to Aaron Morgan and got sponsorship from them to start Project Feed the Fam. And immediately the first people that we took care of were the fire department. That's because of Aaron's involvement there, and then the police officer, and then hospitals. And I was prepared to call down my entire list, and I only made 2 calls. And that is how quickly our community responded, which I think is really awesome. And the mission behind Project Feed the Fam was really simple. Let people do their jobs. Make meals one less thing they have to worry about. You know, if you've got a list of 100 things to do that day, and a lot of them are physically challenging or mentally challenging, anything can take, you know, something away from your load. And sometimes just, you know, not having to worry about meals is what we can do. That's what Francis and Mount can contribute within our wheelhouse. And that's another big thing to me, is like, everybody really, we know what we're bad at for the most part, right? I mean, some things that we're bad at, we choose to work on because they're a hobby or because of necessary professional development. But for the most part, I try to encourage everyone, and I try to do this as a company, is do what we're good at. Okay, so breakfast isn't making us money. I really like breakfast. I'm a morning person. Okay, we got to quit focusing on that. We have to focus on lunch and dinner and Project Feed the Fam. And there's more of an overnight market and need for food service than there really is a morning need for food service. Not to mention, most Americans don't really eat breakfast. So that's pretty much, you know, what we did to survive. And then along with that came the support from the community. I didn't really do a good job making it known that I was from Crawfordsville, at least not publicly. Certainly didn't try to hide it. I guess I must have thought it was obvious, but it wasn't. So there's a lot of people that are kind of like, Francis and Mount, this is way too fancy. Who is this guy? And really with COVID-19, I kind of got a chance to show them that, you know, this is who we are and what we do. So as far as, let's see, just wanted to run through these notes here. One thing that I wanted to mention too was the financial aspect of COVID-19. For restaurants, we really do, if you have a bar program, we really do count on that revenue. And should we? You know, maybe not, but we do. And so that was a new thing to us too, is how do we make money on food, which is already really tiny margins. So we had to figure that out. We had to buckle down on that. And we really went with a quantity approach. And this was really nice as well to get us in the habit of feeding between 30 and 60 people in one go of things. So since then, we've fed about 3,000 people since March, and 3,000 different meals was quite the accomplishment for us. And as far as reopening has gone, it's been great. A lot of customers have come in and they've told us that for one reason or another, we are the first stop that they've made since they've decided to, you know, break quarantine. A lot of them have limited breaking of quarantine. You know, they wanted to come in off hours. So I didn't do the traditional thing of closing between 2 and 5. And just a side little tangent on that, without being too political, is I think that as a nation, we almost made a mistake with narrowing the hours of retail and restaurants, because we actually kind of forced more people into that box. So I hunt for inconsistencies and plans, mainly because I need to find the holes in my own plans in order to be successful. But that one really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And that's when I wanted to make sure that we had expanded our hours to give people, you know, more room and more time to eat. So that's been a great reception. The patio that's fantastic too. There's enough tables out there and soon to be on the Market Street side as well that folks can also dine outside and feel more secure. And as I refuse to speak to the validity, the health, the statistics, and all of that of COVID-19, what I think I can speak to is the human condition during this time. And I think all of us, we have our own challenges in life, and then we are forced to face this challenge together. And my way of responding to that was to kind of just try to give the people what they want, let them take a break from it, and give them the space that they need to enjoy the food how they want to. And that's what we did during COVID-19.
Does anybody have any questions? I'll start off real quick. Isaac, what's your view of what is it, stage 4.5? I think the governor called it yesterday. How do you think that's going to affect the restaurant business?
I don't think it's going to. I mean, this is another thing is, you know, of all the different industries, I think that the restaurant is the best suited to deal with this virus because we have something all the time that is scary, right? We have raw product. We have different raw product, okay? So we have walk, fly, and swim products at all times, and they can't mix. So we're already in the habit of staying sanitized. We're already in the habit of rearranging the dining room to meet the needs of different parties, of everything. So I kind of jokingly told a friend of mine, I was like, you know, if it wasn't COVID-19, it'd be something else because the restaurant really is faced with challenges at all times. So how's it gonna affect the restaurant industry as a whole? I don't know, but how's it gonna affect Francis and Mount? Zero effect. Just putting off what we'll do when we can do. But for right now, it's allowing us to gradually ease into the newfound volume that we're already experiencing, and you know, carry out and delivery is still going strong as well. So for us, we're rolling with the punches.
Isaac, is the full menu available for carryout?
It is, and then some. There's actually more items on the carryout menu than there are the dine-in options. And if you want to get into menu design and reasoning, we can do that on another day.
Isaac, how many seats do you have exterior currently, and how many are you going to add?
Currently, we have 16, and we will be going up to 28 total. And then pending lifting of restrictions and our comfort level with that, we can increase that. The funny thing about the patio is it's really not, you know, say for example, we had 100 total seats and then you add a patio of 50. You're not going to have 150 guests. You know, you're probably still just going to have 100 people. Some folks want to sit at the bar. Some folks want to hang out in a nice air-conditioned 69-degree dining room. And some folks want to be outside, you know, almost all the time, rain and shine all together. So 28 seated chairs, and then in the front on the Washington side, in order to be the most accommodating we can with ADA, I think that that's going to be better that we set up more bar seating with folks looking out to Washington Street. And I'm the proud owner of 96 high-top stools now. We, as restaurants have kind of decided that they don't want to fight, we've collected a few things for the foreseeable future of Francis and Mount.
So what are your hours, Isaac?
We're open from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. So the kitchen closes about 9 p.m. And that's really just the demand of things. And then the drinkers kind of stay a little bit later on the weekends.
Okay.
Isaac, do you still have a prime rib night?
We do not still have the prime rib night. What we have done in lieu of that is we have made our 12-ounce New York strips, more affordable with the same amount of product because I kind of hit that price break, which is really awesome. And then the surf and turf, keeping that going strong, and that's how we've made our folks happy. The prime rib thing, man, I'm not used to. Okay, so you have the whole prime rib, you slice the ends off. That's for people that want a little bit more done, and then the middle is a perfect medium rare. Medium rare is not the most popular temperature in Crawfordsville, Indiana. So I've kind of seen, my guys have enlightened me as to the different ways to do that, which is essentially dip it in the jus. And so I said, oh, boiled meat, huh? And that was the end of prime rib. Did you enjoy the prime rib, Mr. Allen?
I did.
Yeah. What temperature do you like your meat?
This is
Medium
Mark. What
rare.
is the most
Medium
popular
rare?
meal?
Pardon me,
What is
sir?
the most popular meal?
What is the most popular meal? Most popular item on the menu right now is Plain Jane, which is our half-pound burger with just cheese on it. So that's a plain burger. You can, of course, add your toppings to it. Second most popular item is 12-ounce New York strip. And then the third most popular item is 8-ounce filet mignon. And then the rest of the burgers, I'm sorry, 6-ounce filet mignon, we changed that, went down 2 ounces for greater affordability. And then the burgers are all in line right behind that, with salads bringing in the tail end.
Isaac, what's your biggest takeout item?
Burgers all the way. But lots of surf and turf and things like that to go. And I think that that's really, we do focus a lot on our packaging. I try to make sure that things travel well. And a lot of people still, they want to have some sort of norm, some sort of, ability to enjoy something that's really hard and really unaffordable to do at home. And that's really surf and turf. There's no buying power when you want 1 or 2 lobster tails.
Has your staff stayed pretty much consistent through the entire thing?
Not a bit. A few key members have, and thank God for that. But it has been incredibly stressful on people. This is a stressful industry, anyways. It's not the staffing thing that can be its own talk. But really, to be successful in this industry and to be successful right now during COVID-19, it really demands a good outlook on life and kind of finding happiness where you are, and not, as more of a decision than a destination. So the people that have stuck around, I'm really happy they have, and the other folks that their decision to leave, maybe they can be happy somewhere else. But
Isaac, was the payroll protection plan and the loan program, was that a benefit to Francis and Mount?
It was. Was it necessary for our survival? Probably not. But what it did allow us to do was continue on our plans. We're still we're getting ready to enter phase 4 of a 10-phase project with Francis and Mount. And so the payroll protection plan, that was incredibly hard for us to get. That was something that was launched, as we know, without a lot of oversight and a lot of direction. And banks were kind of like, okay, who's on the hook for this? We're currently banking with PNC. They made themselves very clear that there were going to be a lot of challenges with the P3 loan for them. So I'm like thinking, okay, I want to go to some private banks or some smaller banks. Went to Tri-County and to HHSB. Tri-County, actually, we had a lot that went into figuring out that amount. We ended up getting it from them, and we were not withdrawn from the system, or we would have gotten it from HHSB. So we figured that out. That was really stressful. I thought there for a time there was going to have to be a chapter of my book called "We Made It Through COVID Without the P3 Loan," but we were able to get it.
Mr. Morris, we had better luck with the local banks than we did with the Chase when we were getting that thing. Finally, with HHSB.
Good.
Isaac, you said that was phase 4 of 10. Where do you see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? 10 is probably the book.
Pardon? What was about 5 through 9?
You said that was phase 4
Yeah.
of your plan, and so I was wondering what 5 through 9 was. I'm sure 10 is your book.
Yeah, we'll hope so, right? No, I think I really do try to live my life that like, it's like, you know, if you wrote a book about it, would anybody read it? All these corny things that were like shoved down my throat as a kid, I totally ate up and still believe like you can do anything you want if you work hard at it. You know, the only thing limiting you is you. And I mean, Crawfordsville was just our teachers in school. I mean, it was surrounded by them telling us we can do whatever, you know, you want if you work hard and stay out of trouble and be a good person. You're going to meet those goals. And I got to tell you, I think that they're right. But so the next phase for us is to get above the current dining room, to get that renovated into some additional space, and that's mainly for event spaces. Judy Klein is going to be our architect, and so we have a lot to work out as far as capacity and the needs for fire suppression. And then future phases will include the other rooms where the office is, and there was a dentist office in the building used to be, and those take I don't know if they take more imagination or more hard work, but we'll find out. We've got both. And then the final phase is we're really looking into the Dillman's building, and to kind of see what we can do there. We definitely do need parking, even if it was 20 spaces, that would be really helpful. That building's in severe disrepair, and so we've got some things in the work. It's probably a little too fresh to share them completely. We've got some things in the work that would allow us to utilize that space without detracting from downtown. Because a big value of Francis and Mount is, you know, it's great for the ego and does apply pressure to what we do. We are literally at the cornerstone of Crawfordsville. And so with that, I feel that we have a big moral responsibility to keep things historically accurate and as beautiful as possible, and timeless looks, right? You know, like, yeah, we've got the bright chairs right now to catch your eye, but at any given moment, those could be changed around. You know, focused on wood and, you know, living plants, that sort of thing. So that's pretty much what we're doing in the future. We would love to have that upstairs open by the holiday season of this year. And Judy's going to tell us if that's going to be possible or not.
Any idea?
Isaac, what would be the capacity of the upstairs?
That's our biggest question right now. So there's a few different ways that you can inch out a little bit more fire capacity, right? And that's with 5/8 inch thick drywall, some different fireproofing to buy you some time in the event of a fire, adding a fire escape and back, which we'll do anyways, mainly because we need it to haul out of the 140 years of junk out from upstairs, which is an interesting problem in and of itself. So the capacity, we'll find out about that. We will find out. But even if worst case scenario, we get a rating of 30 to 40 people, even with 20, that still provides enough for a lot of small businesses that would like to have their holiday party. So a 20 person party in the dining room is pretty big, right? That's at full capacity, we only seat 48 in the dining room. So that's half the dining room. Then it's kind of like, what do you do with the other half? Does that bother you? Does it not bother you? And then the customer decides how much it bothers them, and that kind of influences the price. But my idea with upstairs right now would be a living dining room concept, only a size appropriate for 20 people. So, you know, Sean Grundy, with him being the excellent carpenter that he is, turn him loose on a dining room table that can seat 20 people. I mean, that's definitely every chef's fantasy.
I had a question, Isaac. I noticed you did some cooking there at Kroger one day. Was that just a lost leader advertisement, or just a give back to the community, or what was that all about?
Well, I'm glad that you used the term lost leader, because that is something that I do all the time. I love it, right? It's like, oh man, look at how cool those escargots are. I'll take the plain Jane. You know, so lost leaders are really effective. But in this case, I wanted to give back to both Kroger and Walmart. Only Kroger allowed it. You know, this was all about giving recognition to everybody on the front line taking risk. And I feel that the Kroger employees, I'm glad they are protected by union, but which I typically am not a union guy, but it works for them. And we did want them to feel some appreciation, because, you know, nobody knew how bad this was going to be, and they kept going to work and doing their duty. So that was really cool. Now, the surprising part about that is we received over $700 in donations from the community at that event, and that wasn't even a part of it. So, yeah, it really excites me when you see people do good for the community, and kept us busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, one day when you get your capacity up to 30 or 40, we need to have a Qantas meeting over in your building and check that out.
Okay, great.
I'm sad to say that I haven't tried you yet. We haven't been doing hardly any restaurant business, but
Sure.
I'm really excited about what I see on Facebook with the awesome hamburgers you're having. I can't wait to come down and try those.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was, you know, I had to like beat out of me my taste and everything in order to fit in with a higher level of dining. And it took me, you know, about 6 months to 9 months. It's like, Isaac, stop. Just put what you eat every day on the menu and it's going to be successful, you know? Yeah, the only thing I haven't figured out is how to have ranch on tap.
What is your supply for good beef, the steaks and the ribeyes and all that? Where do you buy that stuff?
Okay, the answer is several different people, but my favorite people to buy from is Dugdale in Indianapolis. They source with a lot of different farms and processing plants, and it's a great company. You know, third generation. They don't have any online ordering. I still talk to my guy. If I've forgotten something, he says, "Are you sure you don't need bacon?" And I go, "Oh crap, yes, I need bacon. How'd I miss that?" So I like that. They run things the old school way and take a really good, you know, they take really good care of us.
Isaac,
Deliveries once a week or off?
The main delivery from them is once a week, but we often have to do supplemental deliveries. For my supplemental deliveries, I do normally involve either my broadliner or Ideal Meat, which is also a smaller company out of Indianapolis.
Isaac, what do you see for the future of Feed the Fam? Is that going to continue? Is that going to do something after this whole virus thing is over? Or, I mean, it sounds like it's been tremendous for you and for the community.
Yeah, it really has. Where I would like that to go, and there's still some unanswered questions, right? But I really think that, you know, there's hungry families every day in Crawfordsville, and I really enjoyed all the support that we did with them. Most of the time for the hungry families, I either did not question it, or even better, we had the Salvation Army vet them. With Project Feed the Fam going forward, if we do focus on the families, one of the ethos of the company has to definitely be, like, you know, feeding with dignity. I don't think that if you are, first of all, a lot of poverty is very intermediate, but it can feel like, you know, your whole life. To a worm and horseradish, the world is horseradish. And so I really, you know, how do we feed people in such a way that we can afford to get a lot of bang for our buck, but at the same time, allow them to maintain their dignity. I don't think someone has to be punished with bread and water, but I need to put a nice, pretty bow on how to make that all possible and really outline the ethics of that charity. And it needs to be organized as a charity instead of it's, now it's running under the, and LLC is kind of its own division. My accountant didn't think it got so big that would be an issue, but going forward, I'd like to see its possibility, but really for that, I need somebody on board that is their passion, that is their experience, that's their education, and they can really head the project Feed the Fam. And we support our resources. Again, I have no experience in 501c3, but somebody does. And what I can do is large scale feeding and, stretch food if we need to. That was a long way of saying I don't know, wasn't it?
No, that was good. I appreciate it.
Are there any other questions out there? Well, if not, Isaac, thanks for joining us today. It was very interesting. Thanks for what you do for the community. Some of what we do, I think, aligns very nicely with what it is that you've been doing, particularly since the beginning of this whole COVID thing. We'd sure like to make you a member of the club as well. So if Gary doesn't drop off the application to you this afternoon, I'll run one down before the weekend.
Okay, that's awesome. Good deal. I'm very honored to be able to speak. I would like to get better at speaking. I'm working really hard to treat the bigger picture of things, and especially how it relates to the restaurant industry and my experience. And actually, June has been a very big month for me. One of the accomplishments of June is I celebrated 20 years in hospitality, and I'm 34. So that was kind of neat.
You do a good job speaking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. You did a great job. So thanks again. And like Dennis said, when you get your space set up right, we'd like to maybe schedule a Kiwanis meeting when we can all get back together face to face. Schedule a meeting down there and hold it at your place and have lunch there.
That'd be great.
Next week's speaker will be Dr. Frank Howland from Wabash College. That's Elizabeth's husband. He's going to talk, I'm sure, something about economics and COVID-19. So be sure that you tune in for that. And again, next week will be the election of officers. Please reach out to another member who hasn't been joining us on a regular basis. First place, check on them and make sure that they're doing okay and that they don't really need anything. And then encourage them to attend the meeting next week. I would like to have as great a participation as possible among the membership, so that they buy in on the slate of officers and board members for next year. My closing thought for the day: mistakes are a great educator when one is honest enough to admit them and be willing to learn from them. And with that,